Hello everyone, today I will be talking about how landfills affect both our health as well as our environment. So I want to start off by saying that acknowledging the nasty smell as well as the waste gathered isn't very difficult, right? Why? Because it's all around us. It's in our neighbors' homes, it's in our homes, organizations, it's on the street corners, it's everywhere. Trash is everywhere and it is inescapable. Why? Because everything eventually becomes trash. Whether it's food, clothes, games, toys, everything becomes trash. So landfills are very popular in the United States. Why? Because trash will never be deteriorated. Even in smoke, if you burn it, that's incinerated. That means that smoke becomes carbon dioxide. And speaking of which, as stated in an article by Brian Palmer called The Green Lantern, approximately 760,000 tons of carbon dioxide are produced from landfills alone in the United States. Imagine that. That's horrible. That's added to pollution. We're talking about landfills alone, not all the other contributors for pollution. So just imagine that. The process, trash undergoes after being transported from our own homes to a landfill not only turns out affecting our air, but affects our soil. So these elements that we use on a daily basis are affected. So I mean, what are we left with, right? Except for all this pollution. Overall, the hazardous environment we are left with includes these harsh chemicals that will eventually end up leading to health issues for both our children and family as well as ourselves. So pretty much we're prone to living with these conditions because of landfills. So think about that. What would you do about these landfills? Just continue to think. Landfills cause pollution in the land through gas and soil contamination. According to the facts and statistics from EPA in 2010, about 1.5 to 1.8 million of waste was discarded in landfills, which penetrate into the land, jeopardizing the well-being of future occupants. According to a study performed in 2006 by David Pimentel, known as the Environmental and Economic Cost of Social Erosion and Conservation Benefits, about 30% of America's topsoil had been lost due to soil erosion from landfills. This was problematic because soil erosion lowers productivity of agriculture as well as availability to build neighboring communities around landfills without avoiding contamination. So you're prone to have contamination if you're living around a landfill, which means that your home cost goes down, but I mean your health risk goes up, skyrocketing. In turn, about 80% of the country's agriculture was affected by serious soil. Only 10% experienced soil erosion. So 80% of the country experienced severe soil erosion, while 10% only experienced mild. So, I mean, the whole country is being soil eroded because whether it's mild or severe, the soil is being contaminated. According to an article Inside Business released in 2006, there are many trending managed landfills. The landfills that are being made now change in growth, but the contamination is still there. So if the growth is bigger, the range of getting either diseases or being contaminated within your home grows up. So everything goes up as long as those landfills continue to grow. Massive landfills are not only more efficient as far as size for us, because us as Americans throw everything. So landfills growing are only greater, right? That's great for us. That's great. We have somewhere to put our trash. But is that really great for us? Our health is being it's being taunted, you know? Like every little thing that happens with these landfills is affecting ourselves. Smells of rotting waste and garbage is not contained, is polluted. So these landfills and their contamination are not being controlled. We don't have people going there semi-annually to check that, make sure the gas pipes underneath the soil haven't leaked, to make sure that leakage isn't going into homes, to make sure that the levels of carbon dioxide as well as other harsh chemicals in the air are controlled. None of this is happening. It is said that landfills should be covered with soil every night to make sure that none of these leakages escape into the air as well as underneath. Is that happening? Absolutely not. That is what's going on. Smell of rotting waste and garbage isn't contained. Living in a proximity to a poor maintained landfill can cause serious health effects, especially in children. These come with cancer, birth defects, and genetic mutations. So a pregnant woman can also be affected. I mean, think about these things. These unescapable chemicals seep into our air, groundwater, and soil very easily, which cause high concentrations of hazardous chemicals, gas, into our homes. So, I mean, think about it. All these chemicals are penetrating our air, penetrating our lungs, penetrating our bodies. There's been kidney transplants, there's been heart transplants, blood transfusions because of these landfills. These are serious conditions, and I mean, this is something to take an action for. There needs to be control in these landfills. These chemicals travel up to 30 miles from their predestination, affecting everything in sight. Like a tornado, everything in sight, boom, 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 is being affected. Everything is being destroyed because of these landfills. Environmental impacts of solid waste. Three of the main hazardous chemical distributors and disposal in landfills are incineration and emission, as well as disposal of waste ashes, which when biomonitored both demonstrate to trace metals, bilateral organic compounds, or dioxins. Due to these risks, a risk assessment has been designed. So Dee Crowley, in a literature review, explains this risk assessment. So there's 3 different phases, and through these phases it's very difficult to overcome the fact that these landfills are not polluted. Every single one of those tests has came back positive. That contribution to pollution is horrible. The three different phases are dose responsive test, exposure test, and risk contamination, as well as hazard identification. So these 3 different contributors help biologists consider what's going on and what needs to be changed. Responding to uncertain results is very difficult because it poses immense challenges for officials and the public. These results must be communicated to the public so we know about them. We should know about these landfills. Have we really heard about them? Probably not. Why? Because we don't live around landfills, you and I. I mean, if you live in the LA area, you don't really see landfills. You go out to Louisiana, you go out to Maine, you might see more of those. Why? Because those are smaller states, so that means that people think that there's less people living around the landfills, when in fact there's many businesses out there that are being affected. So these test results have increased the use of recycling and have reduced the amounts of waste generated. That's great, but does it really help the situation with landfills and its pollution? No, it really doesn't. Dee Crowley's waste pool considers that these recycling methods have only merely affected the pollution. I mean, it has helped, but not entirely. Something needs to be done to these landfills in order to change them. The call to action perhaps might be the greatest safety improvement. It would probably be to control watch these intruding chemicals by checking for leachate. Leachate is a very, very harsh chemical, and it's very hazardous to our health. That needs to be watched. The pipes underneath the soil need to be wrapped 3 layers in order to avoid any leakage or anything surrounding, like as far as different carbon dioxides being exposed. Like all that stuff needs to be covered. It needs to be controlled. So regular checks semi-annually for any levels of hazardous chemicals are pretty much expected. So overall, I mean, I hope that this speech has informed you a little bit about how landfills affect us as a country and how landfills affect the pollution. So pollution is worldwide, and I mean, these landfills aren't a great help. So in the United States, we need to lower our trash, the way we throw away stuff. We need to know that the way that these manufacturers produce these items that we are going to throw away in the future, that it's more organic, that it's more soil efficient. So a lot of things need to tie into these landfills. So I mean, I hope you learned a lot from my speech, and thank you.